Welcome to The Alternative Investor. Some asset managers believe that there is space for fixed income investments in an investor's portfolio. So you may be wondering, why should I be holding fixed income assets? And also, most importantly, what are they? For that discussion, we are joined by Albert Botha, who is the head of fixed income at Ashburton Investments. Albert, thank you so much for your time. Before we dissect fixed income investments, let's talk about South Africa's bond market. I mean, what do you make of it, especially its performance over the past several years?
Good afternoon, and good afternoon, everyone. So the South African bond market has actually been a very good asset for the last 5, 6, 7 years, and for local investors, given to the degree of risk that they've been taking. They've gotten real returns. They've gotten 8% or so per year over the last 5 years. And South African bond market investors, South African fixed income investors, are in a somewhat unusual position globally in that we get relatively high real or above inflation returns relative to debt or relative to inflation compared to many other markets around the world. Whereas in many other developed markets, the returns they get are actually below the inflation or expected inflation rate.
So let's talk about the appetite for investors towards fixed income assets. What are you seeing?
So fixed income assets in South Africa is one of the largest categories, and I think it's quite often underappreciated. So if you think about just the money market category in South Africa, there's about 400 billion rand of investments in South African money market category. There's about 200 billion rand in what's called the short-term interest bearing, another about 200 billion or so in what's called the multi-asset income category. There's bond categories, etc. And it sums up to a little bit over about sorry, my lights just went off, 1 trillion rand in assets in the fixed income world in South Africa. So it's a very large category. There's quite a lot of appetite there. And in general, specifically at the 2014 to start of 2020 period, this is before the corona the crisis, we actually saw equity markets underperform slightly. So there's been significant demand from the local investor space for returns from fixed income.
So some may be hearing of fixed income hedge funds. From your experience, what is the mandate and approach of a fixed income hedge fund?
So a fixed income hedge fund is effectively a portfolio that can invest in many ways similar to a normal traditional fixed income funds. Fixed income funds are effectively different from equity funds in that in fixed income you invest primarily what's called higher up the capital structure. You invest in debt. You're lending money to organizations. And that's generally considered significantly safer than investing in equity because any income that comes in or revenue that comes into the organization has to go to debt holders first before it can go to equity holders. So it's generally a safer asset class. That's what a fixed income fund does. And what a fixed income hedge fund then traditionally does is it allows the portfolio manager to effectively go and, if for every R1 million they have, to go borrow another R1 million or R2 million or R3 million and effectively leverage up that portfolio to increase the potential return of the portfolio, and also at the same time potentially short or hedge other assets to reduce the volatility. So in short, that's generally what a hedge fund can do. There are dozens of different strategies that you can employ, but effectively it does two things. It borrows money to invest, and it hedges either with options or different types of positions in order to kind of reduce the risk of those borrowings.
All right, Albert, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but we definitely would love to have you back on the show because there's so many other aspects that we do want to unpack. That is Albert Botha from Ashburton Investments. For now, we're going to cross to Mining Minister Gwede Mantashe, who is briefing the media on what is happening in the mine.